You just have to have these certain skills, which is love for community, right? A knowledge of legislation, and the passion to do it, leadership skills. It's like, I have all that. So like,
nice.
It's interesting.
Nice. Welcome to another episode of Innovation Somalia. I am your host, Abdullahi. I'm coming to you from Columbus, Ohio. I'm really excited. Today's guest is somebody that you will find very intriguing. Today's guest is Munira Abdullahi. Munira is a candidate for the House Representative here in Columbus, Ohio on District 9. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you for taking the time to do this. I know you're a busy person. You have the upcoming campaign that's about to kick off. I think that's on Wednesday, right?
Yep, the official campaign kickoff event is Wednesday, but it's already kicked off technically.
Oh, okay, so for those of us that don't know much about you, Munira Abdullahi, tell us a little bit about you.
A little bit about me. So I am a first generation American. I moved here with my family from a refugee camp from Kenya. Sorry.
It's all right.
So I moved here with my family from Kenya in 1997 or 8. I was a child. I was like 2 years old, so I don't remember the exact dates. But we moved here to America all together. We came to Utah, and then 2 years later, we moved to Ohio. One of my sisters were born there. So 2 of us were born in Kenya. And then one of my sisters were born in Utah.
Are you the oldest?
I'm the oldest, yes. I'm the oldest of 9 children. 8 girls, 1 boy.
Wow.
It's chaos.
I know your dad too.
You know my dad?
I know your dad, Yasin.
He's a big guy.
Shout out to you, my friend.
Yeah, he's definitely a big part of why I'm doing this today, and I'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, we came to Columbus, Ohio, 1999, I believe, and then the rest of my siblings were born here. So I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. Preschool, elementary school, went to Cassidy Elementary near Agler. And then we transitioned to International Academy.
I know that very well too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because my dad is like,
just the Somali route.
And my dad worked there, and he's like, because he worked so many jobs. He worked like 3 different jobs, and we never got to see him, right? So he's like, there's an opportunity here. I'm gonna work at this school, and you're all gonna go to that school. So we're gonna see each other every single day.
Nice.
So yeah, we went to International Academy for the rest of my elementary and middle school days. Then I went to a bunch of different high schools, surprisingly. I went to like Northland High School for a little bit, which is in my district, District 9. Then I went to Zenith for a little bit.
I know Zenith too as well.
Zenith was very interesting. And those 2 were in my freshman year, like I went half-half. It was very odd. But then the rest of my high school career was spent at Columbus Alternative High School. It's a very high achieving public school. It's a public school, but it's different. Like Columbus Alternative, everybody leaves in the first year because it's so difficult. But it really taught me a lot. It's very humanities based.
Would you say everybody leaves?
Like a lot of people leave. The first year.
Because of the curriculum is hard?
Because of how hard the curriculum is. And it's like, that's how they made it. And it's very interesting, but it's very humanities based. A lot of literature, a lot of reading, a lot of writing. It really prepared me for college, to be honest. And I remember at the end of my school year, or at the end of my high school career, they usually have like a scholarship meter. And we were at like 9 million or something. It's insane. A lot of the kids I graduated with went to Ivy Leagues. So it's a very smart school. It's a different vibe, completely different than any other school.
Were you the only Somali, or there was a few Somalis there too?
To be honest, it was like me and 2 other people, I think, in my grade. And then they started adding up. You know, Somali people here. They start coming.
When they find out, it's
a good school. Like the parents start telling each other. Before MIT. MIT is a very smart school. That's where all the Somalis are right now. That's where a lot of high achieving parents who want their kids to do really good, they send them to MIT now. Back to my high school. I went to Columbus Alternative High School. I also went to Career Center at the same time at Fort Hays for medical assisting. I thought I was going to become a doctor. And then I worked for a doctor, and I just didn't like it anymore. So I left that. And once I graduated from Fort Hays and Columbus Alternative High School, I went to C-State, Columbus Community College. And I thought I wanted to become an architect. So this is like telling you the story of how you can change your mind multiple times.
Absolutely. I mean, the process of finding yourself, you have to be able to be flexible with yourself.
Exactly.
Be able to change. Absolutely.
So I did go to C-State, then I transitioned to start taking random classes. And at the same time, I've been working for a local nonprofit called Mass Muslim American Society. It's a national nonprofit.
Okay.
But we have a chapter here in Columbus.
Okay.
And I've been working for them more of a volunteer capacity since 2009. So I was the youngest youth director there. I was 16.
Okay.
I was on the board as well. So doing that's how I got into community work. Truly how I got into community work is through my parents.
Gotcha.
They're very big on community.
Mm-hmm.
They're very big on helping others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even when even though they had very little, they tried to give as much as they could. Especially my father, who opened up multiple, centers, and he spent all of his free time at those centers, helping communities, helping people pay for rent, helping them mediate problems, doing food pantries, and he's just a big community guy. So he dragged me to all these things, of course, and he made me volunteer for them.
Nice.
And it really built my love, for community work, and also seeing the issues that people face every day. Kind of it inspired me to do more to help those people. And so I was doing that since as long as I can remember, really. So going with him, and then professionally since 2009.
At a very young age.
Yeah, very young age doing community service. Okay. Yeah. And it just became part of me. So I never really stopped doing community service throughout high school, throughout college, and it really built my leadership skills because I'm the one who would take over things. I remember we had like really large projects going on, and we'd have like some people drop off, like the leaders, and I'd take over. They're like, "Why don't you just take over?" And I'd be like, "All right, I'll do it." And that's how I got promoted to youth director, and the youngest youth director, I think, out of all the chapters in in America. And then I was a board member as well, youngest board member. It was a learning experience, kind of trying to get these older men to listen to me, and just the struggles a woman face. I think a lot of women know how this is, but it's like you have to be better and louder than everybody else, right, to get things done. And it really formed my love and my skills for community service and community work. And so while I was in college trying to figure out what I want to do, I was taking classes that kind of fit that framework, and I realized I want to do more for the community. And I realized that nonprofits really just put band-aids on problems. So we're just putting band-aids on issues, right?
Gotcha.
And if you go to the root of these issues, that's like legislation, right? Housing, public safety, mental health funds. These are the issues that we're trying to solve little by little. But I was like, wait, we could be smarter about this and solve it in a larger scale, right? Instead of putting band-aids on it, and that's through legislation. So I was like, why not do political science? So I did political science in college, and I did political science and international relations because I was in between. Do I want to solve the world's problems like UN? And then also, do I want to do my local community? And I did my degree at The Ohio State University, political science and international relations. Graduated in 2019. And then continued my political work, continued my local community work, got involved with an organization called 𝐓𝐇. I don't know if you ever heard of it. So it's the largest organization for young women civic engagement. So the purpose of 𝐓𝐇 is to get young women involved in running for office, in policy, in legislation. We have multiple college chapters, like almost every state, I think, and there's a fellow for every multiple states, and I'm the Columbus Fellow, right? So I'm in charge of all the Columbus activities for 𝐓𝐇, and it really even ignited my passion for politics even more, especially representing people who don't get represented, right? Which is young Black women and minorities in general, right? And 𝐓𝐇's main mission is to tell young women that you can run for office, that all these barriers that you think exist don't actually exist, right? A lot of women, I think. So, for example, a lot of women have to be asked, I think, 7 times before they consider even running for office.
Wow.
It's a crazy statistic. And men, I think, have to be asked like twice or something. I don't remember the exact facts, don't quote me on this, but it was a ridiculous number. It's a very big discrepancy. And it's because a lot of time women think that they have to have a higher level of achievements. They have to have certain skill sets that society has told us that we have to have. And it's just barriers that have been made by our society where women, especially Black women, have to be better than everyone to do the same jobs.
Yeah.
As you can see, the recent Supreme Court judge, she's literally the most qualified candidate, but she had one of the hardest screenings, right?
Yeah.
And so that's an example of that. So 𝐓𝐇 really tells you, it breaks down those barriers. Like, this is how simple it is to actually do this. You just have to have these certain skills, which is love for community, right? A knowledge of legislation, and the passion to do it, leadership skills. It's like, I have all that. Like, nice. It's interesting.
Nice. Yeah.
And the way that actually happened is very interesting. So I while I was doing my community work, I was actually, I spoke to the Democratic Party. Someone from the Democratic House Caucus spoke to me, and they said, we have this seat opening up because of redistricting, and it's in your district that you've worked in for how long, right? And they said, we think that you would be a good person for it, good fit for it. And this kind of came as a surprise. I was planning on running for office sometime in the future, just looking for the opportunity, and the opportunity kind of fell into my lap.
Nice.
Which is amazing, right? And I'm like, I'll think about it. I thought about it. I did a lot of research, and through my Ignite work as well, I realized, why not? There's not any representation for Somalis in Ohio right now, and we're one of the largest demographics, right, of minorities, and yet we don't have representation in the city council, and we don't have representation in the state house. That's crazy.
Why not the city council? In a lot of the states, if you look around, especially in Minnesota, I think first of all, it's way ahead of us. So what do you think is the holdup that we don't have, representative in city council?
Let me speak freely.
Yeah, of course.
There's a bit of a like, what's the word? What do you say? Division.
Okay.
In Columbus, Ohio.
Because it's a swing state, you think?
No, I mean within the Somali community. Because it's your community that lifts you up.
Gotcha.
And puts you in office, right?
I see what you're saying.
I think we could see a case study of that.
We
saw our last representative, our last candidate for representative when he ran. He didn't really get the support of the Somali community fully.
Gotcha.
It was very divided.
Gotcha.
And I think as a community we need to do better and bring ourselves together and think as one cohesive community instead of these little
combination of a small divisions.
Small divisions, right? It's not going to get us anywhere.
Right.
When you go to Minnesota, you see there's widespread support. People come together.
Yeah.
They don't really delve too much into the inner community politics.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
We're deep into inner community politics.
We are.
Especially and we can get there. We just have to put that aside and realize that for the greater good of our community, it's better for us to come together and support these people who will do what's needed for us, right? Ultimately a win for the Somali community because we need voices in these spaces to help make those decisions.
So what makes you different?
So far I've been getting very good support.
Okay.
And it's also the fact that we don't really invest in tribalism.
Okay.
If you ask me, I would be like, I don't know. I do know, but I'll tell you, I don't know.
I think your energy might be a little bit different, compared to others.
I guess that's true. And I have been a community leader, activist for a really long time as well. So it is a little different. And also, it's so funny because right now what I'm hearing is every tribe thinks I'm part of them. Because I go everywhere. Right? It's my advantage. I go everywhere. And I connect with everyone. And I don't ever speak on that stuff. So, and alhamdulillah, it's just people's hearts have been turned towards me. So
I think we need to leave that back at home.
Yeah,
I think it works best there to let it stay there.
It didn't even work there. Look what happened.
Yeah, I know, right? It's what is meant to be used for versus what it got used to is just completely two different things.
Exactly. And I love the quote from the Quran, we made you in tribes so that you may know one another and learn from one another.
Yep.
It had nothing to do with us fighting one another. It's to us to learn from one another, to take advantage of our differences, not to fight over our differences.
Absolutely. So you mentioned something very interesting earlier. You said nonprofit, they put a banner. Talk about a little bit of that because of the resource that they don't have enough resource, or it's a challenge overall. Yeah.
So nonprofits they're really made to put band-aids on issues, right? Okay. They do the best they can, but like you said, the resources are not always vast for nonprofits. There's different sizes, of course. The capacity is not always there. It's also a non-profit. It's not for profit, so we're not really bringing in a lot of money
and resources. It's a combination of a lot of things, right?
We're not a corporation, right? We don't have the vast power that the government has. You can't compare nonprofit and government. It's a whole different ballgame, right? We're trying to do these issues where we have, for example, we have right now a basketball program for young youth. And we're trying to keep them away from the other things they could be doing at that time, and we'll bring them into doing sports. But how many youth can we really cater to? Maybe max 100, probably. Right? It's not that many. If we even if we scale up, a couple hundred. That's not all the kids in Columbus. It's not. And why are we pulling them out of these streets? To avoid gun violence, right? To avoid drug use, to help them get out of the struggles of low-income housing, right? So there could be statewide drug resources, mental health resources that could help these children. It would help so much more kids than we can. And so we're here trying to solve these issues at a micro level, right? And the state could handle that.
Do it at a macro level.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the reasons.
You're touching on like very, very tangible point. Talk about a basketball for the youth. Tell me a little bit about that program. Is that a part of the non-profit that you were involved, or are you just talking about in general? That's one way to get them, in the right direction.
It is a general, but it's also part of the programs. For example, I used to be part of an organization called 𝐈𝐒, Muslim Youth Central Ohio, and we used to do basketball programs. Mostly my sister was in charge of those.
Okay.
She did amazing.
Okay.
The whole team, and they served a lot of young men all over Columbus. A lot of Somali men, boys, all over Columbus, and they brought them in. They made them, they made them do basketball programs. They made them do classes on the side. Like, hey, you can't attend these until you go to the classes.
And
it's very genius. It's a very genius system because they want to play. They want to play basketball. And right now we have a girls program, which we sponsored for a while, and we just integrated them into our nonprofit right now. So now they're officially part of us.
Okay.
But it's a girls basketball program, which rarely happens, to be honest with you, right? It's always the boys.
Yeah. I know this girl, you probably know her. She's big on TikTok. She wears hijab and she plays basketball.
Jeanette, that's part of who we sponsor, partner with. So she comes here.
She
comes here for the camps.
Yeah.
So Jeanette basketball camps. And again, my family is very involved. So my other sister runs that as well. Rahma, and the other sister's 𝐂𝐎. And so we have these programs. Right now we have girls gatherings. We get together. We also have mentorship programs at the center, which we do every school year and / end of summer.
Nice.
So those kind of programs, like we went to high school students. We're about to start a middle school student one. But those kind of programs, trying to get them, into a safer space, and also to give them resources. For example, the high school mentorship program, we help them figure out how to get jobs, how to do basic life skills. Like we had how to change a tire. Like we had that as a session. How to bake. Things like that. Just trying to keep them busy and also teach them like valuable skills and give them resources that are not
something
otherwise
that they
available
can use
to them.
in real life.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
And if we had these resources in schools, that's another thing. Legislation, right? Giving more resources to schools so they can be able to provide these resources to children, mental health resources, counseling resources, how to actually land a job, like career counseling resources. And that all goes back to how much do we fund these schools, right? And not just schools in rich zip codes, all the schools. My school, I told you, is a very high achieving school, $9 million scholarship my year. And there's years I got more. But we didn't even have AC sometimes. It was such a bad facility. We were struggling in that school. It's an old building. If you ever take a visit to 𝐂𝐎𝐍, Columbus Alternative High School.
Yeah, where is it located?
McGuffey. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It's in a wild area too.
Yeah.
We'll hear things.
I was trying.
We had a few lockdowns.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, but these are very bright children. Everybody deserves access to a safe schooling environment and a high quality education environment, and not to mention like all the shootings are happening now. That's a whole
that's a whole absolutely that's a whole different conversation. So I want to bring it back to you a little bit about tell me a little bit about your campaign and how's it going.
Campaigning has been insane. It's my first time campaigning. Very grassroots. We have volunteers. We don't pay anybody right now. But we're very lucky to have people who believe in me and who are willing to volunteer and help me with these things, like creating these literatures. Amazing right now. Union printed, of course. And we have we've been fundraising, just doing grassroots fundraising. No corporations, just people. And the cool part is that all my donors so far, I believe, have been first-time donors. Which is insane. Which means they've never. I don't know if they've never believed in it, but basically what it says is like they've never believed in a politician enough to donate. Which is amazing. It feels really good. And they're all over America actually, which is amazing.
So that's not only the Somali community, you're getting like love from other
like my Ignite community,
well.
New American Leaders, which I recently did a New American Leadership Fellow fellowship, and they're a organization that is dedicated to getting new Americans into office. And they have an amazing program. It's beautiful. So
nice.
and there's people in Ohio that got me connected to that. Right? So it's amazing. We've had a lot of people who are just providing so many resources to me because they believe in me, and I'm very honored for that.
I think your energy is a little bit different than what people are used to. I think that has a lot to do with it because it's more on the positive side of it. Like you said, you talk to a lot of people. Like nobody really talks about the tribal sense and that. So that itself, it's on a positive note. Let's talk about and how to get on the ballot.
How to get on the ballot?
Yeah.
Like the process of it?
Yeah, the process of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So for state representative, so everybody has different requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly, for state representative, it's a little easier than others. You have to gather petitions.
Okay.
And we got all our petitions, most of them, at the Masjid Jummah prayer. And generally, the petitions have to be from people who live in your district.
Right.
This year, though, it was a lot simpler because of the whole redistricting situation. We've been gerrymandered. The maps have been redrawn so many times, and we didn't even have official maps until the beginning of this month.
Gotcha.
That's why campaigning is a little late.
Okay.
Usually, campaigning starts way before. So we're running on very low time right now.
Yeah.
But so you gather these petitions. So the goal is to have 50. The advice is to get way more than that because you don't know whose address is incorrect, whose signatures are invalid. So we got about 170 signatures.
Okay.
And the Democrat and the ODP, the Ohio Democratic Party, also helped with that. They've been very helpful.
Nice.
And so we got 170. We're only allowed to put in 150. So we submitted 150, and most of them were approved. So and then you pay a fee. I can't remember how much it was. It's like something around $60, $70, $80.
Okay.
You pay a fee, and then you're on the ballot if you get approved. They have meetings. They look at your petitions. They vote it. They count the amount of petitions you got. Make sure the signatures are valid. It took them a while, but I recently got my letter. It's verified from the Ohio, from the Franklin Board of Elections. Yeah.
Okay. So the ballot.
So I'm on the ballot officially. Yep. Literally just recently got.
Yeah, because a lot of people really don't know the process of the land. You oftentimes you hear somebody's running, but we really don't know if they're on the ballot. So let's talk about a little bit about some of the things that because you were involved in the community. Like you said, really early age, right? You get exposed to so many things. At some point, you become a board member as well as the Yanks director on one of the nonprofit companies that you worked for. So you get to see a lot what the community needs and how the nonprofit, how they really working through them. So now let's say inshallah you get in office and what are your thoughts in a sense of do you have priority in your mind that hey I've been exposed to this needs my attention, and this is in my district. What are the top 3 things that you think that your district needs that you can go ahead and get started on that?
If I had to choose top 3, would be 1, investing in community centers.
Okay.
Because there's some really good community centers here in our district, but they just don't have a lot of funding.
Gotcha.
So they're really cut by their capacity, right? They're not able to do as much because they don't have state funding, they don't have grants, they don't have a lot of resources.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely providing more resources to community centers so they could serve more people, because people really do rely on their services at the moment.
Yep.
And also investing in the infrastructure in our district.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it is.
The streets are bad. We don't even have sidewalks. For the
a lot of it, we don't have sidewalks. You're absolutely right.
It's pretty bad, and there's accidents that happen, right? There's a few incidents that have happened already.
Yeah.
And just investing in the infrastructure and investing in small businesses. This is a growing district now. It was dead for a while, and it's booming now. So really investing in those small businesses, because that really helps improve the whole district, the whole area, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the businesses are flourishing, the economy is flourishing, the small economy is flourishing, everyone's doing better than they were before, right? Yeah. So that would be my top 3 at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, those are really some definitely needed items that community can use it.
Yeah.
Definitely in infrastructure, because oftentimes when you when you drive around 161, there isn't that much of a sidewalk.
And your car, and the potholes.
The potholes and all that, I think like I said, your age is a little bit different, and we hope to get you in there. And if you got to listen to this podcast, we're halfway through. We really need your vote. So talk about a little bit about when people can start voting
the early vote.
Early vote.
And also, I forgot to mention, we do have the endorsement of the Franklin County Democratic Party, which is amazing. I think I'm the first Somalis to ever get an endorsement.
Yeah.
So that's actually a recommendation. The endorsement vote is happening Thursday. Stay tuned for that.
Okay.
So we'll see. Make sure that we get the actual endorsement. But usually the recommended candidate is the endorsement, because the county party recommends. And the state will vote. Right. The committee for the state party.
Is there anybody else competing with you?
Yeah, there is actually. I do have a competitor. We didn't even talk about that.
Okay.
I mean, it's not really much to talk about.
Of course you are.
But there is one competitor, Paul Flopelli. He's a lawyer. So that's my one competitor. So there's that.
There's that.
But early voting begins July 6th. So I really do urge everyone to register to vote. I believe the last day is July 2nd, I think. It's supposed to be 30 days before the primary date. So most people, if you've moved, you need to update registration so you can actually vote in this district. And then just make sure that everything is correct. We know there's a lot of voter suppression that happens. So just double check everything, right? And then, so early voting is July 6th. So go out to the Franklin County Board of Elections. You can go vote early there. From July 6th all the way to August 2nd is the actual primary date. So August 2nd is when the real
stuff happens.
The primaries. And it's a special election too. So that's why it's like we're not expecting that much people, because it's so rare to have an August election.
Exactly.
And it's not a presidential election. Most people come out during the presidential election years, right?
That is true.
But you guys, local politics is how things actually get done. It really isn't on the national level. It's not presidents who get these policies out. It's your local politicians. So I really urge people, not just for me, but like local politicians in your areas who you believe will represent you best, to go out and vote for them, because that's how we get actual state and local city policies passed that are beneficial to us. Because if we ignore those, other people will vote for us and they'll make decisions for us. And that's the decisions that really affect us every day.
So we'll probably find that out that same day, right? Or the second, or maybe
usually, unless there's like some complication, we usually find out like that night.
No, I think that's going to be a very, very interesting road for you, and I really hope you come out of there and swing it, because we need a like young mind thinking process. We need a different outlook.
Definitely different perspectives, right? More Black people, more women, more minorities, more immigrants. To reflect the democracy of the people of.
And I think really the best, because you got exposed at a very young age. Like you get to work with the community. You see from 16 to where you are now. You've probably seen not so much progress that was done at the time, but hopefully don't be one of those candidates when they get into the office that like, I don't know you.
No. And you know what? I urge people, if I win, when I win, to always keep me accountable. Like, and if you don't live in my district, for your other candidates, to always keep them accountable. People in office, they need you. And if you send enough letters and calls, they're going to listen, because they know that you're their constituents, and constituents come first.
Gotcha.
And we just have to make our voices heard. A lot of times we don't know how to do that. Phone calls are open. Like, you can easily find the phone number of your state representative, or the email, or the mailing address, and you can send those letters, and you can do personal lobby for your policies and issues. So keep your candidates accountable.
Gotcha. And earlier on, you talked about a little bit about mental health. Mental health is something that our community it's not looking into too much into it. And I think that's
it's not looking good.
It's not looking good. I think that's kind of sad. I'm not really sure if it's so as a politicians or somebody that who we think will get into the office, what can be done for the mental health? How do we create awareness? By us just having this conversation, I think it will add to the to the bucket that in terms of creating awareness, but. The real work needs to be done on the bottom. Let's talk about resources. Let's talk about the community that uplifting itself. Let's talk about things that it's so much is taboo. Really, people think, I was talking to the other guy I had a gentleman that who into soccer too much, and he came from in a neighborhood that that was not the best to raise a kid. So he was talking about that, how having a positive outlook in life, or thinking about positive outlook in life, kind of sort of changed his life. And he was living proof when he really talk about it. Hey, our parents were struggling to putting food on the table.
Yeah.
Now we are in the States, and and we in America kind of sort of pushes you to get tuned in with your feelings. Yeah. And now and your parents are like, what, you depressed? Right. How are you depressed?
Oh my gosh.
So they are like in two different mountains. You know what I mean? So how are we able to bridge to that?
I think at a state level, there's ways we could invest in resources, kind of making because the state has a lot of funds to be able to invest in resources, right? So investing in these community centers that do provide mental health help. And also making it more of a priority. I don't think it's really much of a priority right now, and mental health is so huge, especially for immigrant communities. There's so much unresolved trauma that no one talks about.
Yeah, no one talks about.
You went through a lot,
yeah, we
and
went
people
through a lot.
don't even understand. Like even the people themselves don't understand. My parents don't understand. They'll just talk about these things casually. Dude, you went through a lot, and it shows how with your kids sometimes they let it out a little bit, and it affects their children in very negative ways. But just kind of invest in those resources, kind of you can see how in America mental health in general declined significantly when the Reagan administration, all the way back then, when he defunded like a lot of these mental health institutions, right? Mm-hmm. And you could see the effect of that. And I think the states, the legislators need to start reinvesting in those mental health institutions, and also making sure that there's more resources in marginalized communities, and just investing in those. There's small nonprofits right now that try to do this work as well, and kind of putting money into those nonprofits and giving them resources and maybe trainings as well.
If you're listening to this podcast, Munira Abdullahi is the candidate for House of Representative for District 9. She's the youngest Somali person that was running currently, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think so.
For
a state office,
For the state office, and a lot of issues, like she said, a lot of issues get resolved from bottom up, and those are what the legislation get made. If you're eligible to vote, please go out there and vote. The primary is on August 2nd.
August 2nd is the primary date. Early voting starts July 6th, so you get out early. Because I know we set it off to the end, and then we don't have time anymore.
We don't have time.
Right.
Can't get off work or
can't get off work.
Can't skip out of the kids and stuff like that. So
July 6th all the way to August 1st, you can go to the Franklin County Board of Elections and vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and I asked this all my guests. Knowing where you are right now versus when you were like 14, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, that's a tough one. What's funny? We just did that yesterday at an event we had at the center. And mine was, knowing that, just telling my younger self it's okay to not know where you're going at the moment, because you'll figure out eventually, and kind of to let go of control a bit, because I'm a control freak. Okay. I used to be. Now I've learned how to let loose and kind of adapt and be more flexible, and because you never know where the world is going. You never know what's happening. Right. They say man plans and God laughs, right? We plan and
that is true. That is
true. God's the best planner, so you just have to sometimes go with the flow and just let go of control and not freak out as much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. It was just really nice talking to you, and I think you bring different energy to the table. So hopefully this will definitely change a lot of mindset for down the road. So if you're watching, or if you are somewhere in the Columbus neighborhood in the zip code 1429, District 9, vote for Munira Abdullahi on the primary date August 2nd. Any vote stars?
July 6th.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's been very